Hello and welcome to The Full Moon Effect. My name is Patrick.
And I'm Kaz.
And this is the podcast dedicated to a film-by-film analysis of full moon features and the work of Charles Band. On this episode of The Full Moon Effect, we are going to be discussing full moon number 65, Crash and Burn. But before we get into our discussion of that movie, which we just finished watching, we're going to have a little bit of a news roundup, as is our wont, and fill you in on everything going on right now in the world of full moon features. There's actually quite a bit of news to discuss. A lot of things have been going on between our last episode and this one, so I'm going to try to go through these as quickly as possible, but we want to bring everyone up to date. So, the first big item to discuss was actually a story that broke just after we filmed our last episode, and it was before we posted the last episode, which is why we didn't mention it then. I've been dying to talk to you guys about it. So at this point, most Full Moon fans have probably heard that Puppet Master is being rebooted by the writer and director of Bone Tomahawk. This was announced, I think, first by Fangoria. So here's what we know. We have a title. It's going to be called Puppet Master, the Littlest Reich, as in like the Third Reich. So keeping that Nazi connection going with the puppets. It is being co-produced by Caliber Media and D. Bonaventura Pictures. It will be involved, or Charles Band will be involved with the film as executive producer, so he's got his hands in there. As I mentioned, S. Craig Zoller is the writer and director of Bone Tomahawk. He will be writing this film, but no director has been attached to it yet. We do have a premise. We'll provide a link to all of this information below so you can read the short premise of basically what this movie is going to be about. It is a brand new story, so it's not a remake per se. They are calling it a reboot, and indeed it is intended to relaunch a new series of Puppet Master films. So this is pretty interesting stuff. And that is about all we know right now. I don't know that there's any information in terms of production schedule, release date, or even whether this will be released theatrically.
Or even just like a tone like it's going to take. Or...
Well, right. Well, the material gives some sense of that. It says that it's going to be, I think it suggests, I don't have the exact wording in front of me, but that it's going to be gory. It's going to be a real horror
kind of
film.
in vein of like the earlier ones.
But we'll also have elements of comedy.
Right.
So I think it's trying to remain true to tone to the original Puppet Master. There is also a really cool poster online that I thought was pretty great. Yeah. Had you heard about this at all?
I heard about the reboot. I just haven't looked into it much. But like,
yeah.
You know, I love the first film.
Well, so. that's basically all the info we have on it right now. So it's going to be a pretty exciting story to follow. I mean, part of the reason I'm excited is just because it'll be fun to get the updates and talk about them here on the Full Moon Effect. But yeah, I know that remakes and reboots can be controversial. But I am actually excited about this. I've always, when I was a kid, even before I really understood completely what Full Moon was or how movies worked, I always wanted to see like a bigger budget, theatrical Puppet Master, and I didn't really understand why that didn't happen. And I'm surprised it's kind of taken them this long to...
Yeah, because I mean, it seems like that would especially be like easy enough like franchise to like to pull out of, like, it has such a cult following, and it
does,
and I think it would prove to be like fresh enough for like newcomers who had no idea about it to like see that and be like, yeah, I could go and see that. People that, especially with how like scary dolls seem to be like a big thing nowadays.
Well, and I just feel like they've gone back to these franchises and relaunched them again and again, and Puppet Master has just been sitting there. So
I'd love to see a Phantasm reboot.
Yeah, that'd be cool too. I just think it's going to be cool to see like some real filmmaking, put towards these characters. I mean, no insults to the Full Moon movies, which I love.
Was
Absolutely. I mean, look, we're hosting Full Moon Effect. We love the Full Moon movies, but I think it's going to be interesting to see perhaps a little bit of a bigger budget kind of production with these characters, and it is a new story, so it's going to be in that way, I think respectful of the original series. It's
Right.
not saying like forget about that. This is the
Right.
real story.
And the thing about reboots is like there can be good and there can be bad.
Sure.
Ones. I think it just all depends about the team behind it, whether they like understand the source material well and stuff like that. Because you'll have like really good reboots.
Oh,
like,
absolutely.
That do a good job of like staying true to the roots, while also maybe even just changing up the tone or even going in some direction, like the Fly reboots.
Oh, absolutely. That's a great example.
Cronenberg Fly compared to the original
I love
Fly.
the original
Both
Fly,
good
but
movies,
Cronenberg
but
film
there's
is
just
perfect.
vastly different tones.
Or
and
John
styles.
Carpenter's The Thing.
The Thing.
I mean, there's a lot of... So, anyway, I just feel like horror reboots and remakes are so much a part of the horror landscape, you just kind of have to accept them on some level. You don't have to like all of them, but I'm personally excited about this. It's also important to note that the 11th Puppet Master film from Full Moon is still going ahead with production. I actually contributed to the Indiegogo campaign for that movie, and Charles Band sent out an update letting people know that after some delays, that film will finally be going into production this fall. So we're still getting our 11th Full Moon Features produced, Charles Band directed Puppet Master Axis Termination, and we're also getting this remake. So best of both worlds, in my opinion.
Well, I think it's interesting to see how like Puppet Master's really like gaining legs recently with like just different stuff. You know, they got the comics.
Oh, which are great, which I will be discussing.
I mean, they're making still like the main series is still going, and now they're getting like a reboot. It's kind of like interesting.
Yeah, it's Puppet Master's having a moment.
Yeah,
and I'm all for it. So yeah, so
it's old is new again.
So definitely stay tuned to Full Moon Effect. We'll bring you all the news on this movie as it moves forward in development. I guess the next thing is for them to name a director. So I'll be curious to see who ends up helming this movie. So we'll be talking a lot more about that in the future. So I wanted to get that out of the way right away. Puppet Master reboot coming up. Let's talk about home video news now. It was recently announced that the newest Blu-ray that Full Moon will be releasing directly is going to be Lurking Fear. This is C. Courtney Joyner's H.P. Lovecraft adaptation starring the great Jeffrey Combs. I've actually never seen this movie, but it looks kind of cool.
I haven't either, but H.P. Lovecraft I should really...
Lovecraft cool, Jeffrey Combs definitely cool, and it looks kind of like a neat movie, so it will probably make its way into my Full Moon library eventually. So that is actually coming up very soon. That's on June 15th. A lot going on in June. Also in June, on June 11th, Delerium number 11, Full Moon's print magazine, will be released. You can pre-order it now. The cover and contents have been revealed. It's got a great cover with Scream Queen Barbara Crampton and an interview with her, plus lots of other great features. So be on the lookout for Delirium number 11, available very soon. And you mentioned the Puppet Master comics.
Yes.
Which are put out by Action Lab Danger Zone. So in comic book news, they recently wrapped up the 3-issue Ginger Dead Man miniseries, and I believe the trade has already come out. And they have announced the next Full Moon movie to be adapted into comic books by the same publisher will be Oblivion, the cult classic sci-fi western. The movies were written by sometimes comic book author Peter David. The new comic books will be written by Tim Seeley and drawn by an artist named Romina Morinelli. So you can see a bunch of variant covers for this online, and that will be coming out in July. So a lot of Full Moon stuff is happening this summer. In stuff to buy news, a couple of the Resin statues released by Full Moon Direct have become available again. Both Jack Attack from Demonic Toys and the Ghoulie from Ghoulies have been made available again. You can buy them on Full Moon Direct. And here are the specs on those. The Jack Attack statue is about 9 inches tall and limited to an edition of 1,000. It retails for $24.95. The Ghoulie retails for $29.95, is about 6 inches high, and is a posable resin statue. So this is the famous image of the Ghoulie coming out of the toilet that was made so famous on the movie poster and video box art. And you can pose him in and around his toilet. Great collectible. Okay. All right. Enough of that. Let's talk about the movie we watched today, which is Crash and Burn. So I'm sick of hearing myself talk, so let me throw it over to my co-host Kaz. Okay. Kaz, Crash and Burn, 1990, directed by Charles Band. What the hell's going on in this movie?
It's like the title says, it's a movie that crashes and burns.
It does. This movie crash and burn. Yeah, not a high point.
No, I mean,
full moon over.
It kind of starts out like they're in this kind of like post-apocalyptic wasteland kind of scenario where
sort of a post-apocalyptic movie.
Yeah, you really ought to go inside.
Why?
The ultraviolet. It's burning you up.
global warming's kind of like, you know, done its work and it's pumping a bunch of UV rays on the earth and everything looks kind of dried up.
Sure.
And water's scarce, all that good stuff. And
it could happen.
It starts with a guy, Kurt Russell looking guy riding down the desert roads on a motorcycle. Comes across some kind
great
of like,
hair. Yeah, great hair.
Comes across, I guess, like a station or gas station, something like that, like a mechanic.
Sure.
Has like a few just little. I can't remember if he's talking about whether like, oh, can you point me in this direction for so and so place? Because he's trying.
I think he was. He was trying to get directions.
To this particular like outpost where, you know, a bunch of people that are like they shoot for television, radio, or whatever. One of the news anchors or whatever on the station end up spouting out their kind of like rebellious propaganda against the huge big corporation that
which is what
Unicon that runs Unicon. Kind of like it sounds like they have a stranglehold pretty much on the economic situation of like this setting and
a bit of a big brother situation,
right? And this guy being sent there works for them or was hired for them, and which I guess it never really makes sense to me why they send him if they already have androids in.
Right, because we later find that there are a couple of.
Let's get ahead of ourselves. Let's just sit here.
Okay.
He sees, like, you know, on television while he's actually at the gas station repair station, the guy on TV, you know, talking of like rebellious, you know, oh, we're sick of being silenced by these people. You know, I'm going to say what I want, yada yada.
Right.
Arrives at the place. Kind of learn later from the granddaughter of the man that he actually was part of a rebellion group that I guess still exists. That, you know, is fighting against the tyrannical like hold of this.
Yeah. So this is all pretty standard stuff.
Standard, like, you know,
apocalyptic future scenario.
David versus Goliath. This like
you've got
company.
This, you know, corporation or government agency or something kind of holding everything down. You've always got this rebellious kind of group. So this is all, you know,
pretty cut and dry.
I did kind of think it was interesting that our hero was part of the Unicom organization.
Yeah, but they didn't really do much with that.
They didn't. It was a potentially
because when he first arrives, you know, they find out that, you know, he was sent by Unicom, and he mentions to like the 16-year-old granddaughter of, and that's a pretty important key, as you'll find out, a 16-year-old, because this guy. He's just giving like bedroom eyes to all the girls. They
don't completely go there with him and the 16-year-old, but it's strongly implied that they will probably be hooking up. You know, at some point.
I mean, he gives bedroom eyes to all the ladies.
Yeah, he does. Well, hey, it's the apocalypse. You gotta grab it when you can.
But anyways, you know, he's talking with there's this early scene where he ends up talking with the 16-year-old, whose name I forget.
I do too. He's played by Megan Ward.
I'll just call her Megan then.
All right.
He's talking.
Actually, I think I wrote it down. I think it's Aaron. I think it's Aaron.
Aaron. Okay. He's talking with Aaron, and you know, she kind of says like, "Oh, you know, I built a lot of this junk here and blah blah." Like, so it kind of establishes that she's possibly like a mechanic, kind of like really good with her like, you know, her like know-how of machinery and stuff. But she never puts those abilities to much use throughout the movie.
Right.
In fact, it seems like she's more of a programmer, good with computers, than she is like
more
of a hacker more than a mechanic. But he brings up to her, you know, like, oh, I've only been with Unicom like briefly, you know.
Right.
It's like it's just a job I picked up recently, you know. It's what I got to do to get by. And,
right.
I don't really care for it. I'll probably leave after I'm done with this job. And it's so, you know, immediately they kind of cut down all the interesting aspects of him being
that's a good point. Yeah,
being part of this company.
It's not as though he buys into Unicom's line. He's basically just a hired hand.
Yeah, and because of that too, like you never really learn much of the inner workings of Unicom.
Not at all.
No.
Like, what really is their ultimate agenda? I mean, we have the sense that they're this overreaching organization that's kind of tamping down on free speech and, but there's really no... Unicom doesn't really have a face in this movie. We see their synth android agents and this guy who's a hired hand, but their ultimate agenda or what that organization really looks like is not really broached at
Anyways, they introduce like all the cast members basically is and
kind of a motley crew.
Right, you've got the I'll call him a John Goodman lookalike. I mean, it's close.
I think that's an insult to John Goodman.
It is, but like, I mean, he's a very like tubby kind of character actor looking guy,
sweaty fat
dude that's just like a complete jerk and slob. He's doing like a show that I guess didn't they say that he was kind of like part of what helped fund them basically?
Yeah,
as
I think
a station?
he's doing this sleazy talk show as part of this network or this TV station that they run, and they said that he has a relative that basically like funds the station.
Them.
So
the main station seems to be run by like the grandfather character.
Yes.
The chubby like sleazy guy. Who looks like he's part of like the mafia or something,
and was in his underwear.
Wicked or whatever it was. I think it was his last name. Yeah. He has like these two like very sexual, deviant kind of like women. I guess like I
think they're prostitutes.
Yeah, they basically seem to like. I think that's what they were mentioning. Like
I think they're prostitutes. Yeah.
And he's doing like an interview with them in regards to their job and all that.
Or they're at least porn stars.
Something like that. Yeah, something like that.
Some kind of sex workers.
And they're shooting that when he first arrives, the main character from Unicon, he after the show he kind of gets like taken around the place, meets everyone. There's this like teacher character, who's like, she wasn't teaching kids, she was kind of like
well, I think she was teaching a classroom, but she was teaching
via like
virtually,
video or something,
because this station is pretty remote. It's like out in the desert, so she was. I guess I don't know exactly.
They were probably sending a signal of her teaching out, like,
but it seemed like some kind of an interactive, like the kids could ask questions virtually, which is probably fairly reasonable projection of how classrooms may evolve.
But yeah, she's like a teacher. She's got like this weird purple tie-dye-ish looking gown on.
That is, I've noticed in full moon movies, at least especially this era, the women's fashions are just horrible. They're just these beautiful girls, but they never look good.
The 16-year-old girl has like the kind of like farm gal almost looking attire where she's got bad too. Like dark purple jeans, and she's got like the belt with like overalls and like the red puppy like shirt.
It's always bad. It's always bad. These beautiful girls are just, I don't know what's going on with the fashion in these movies.
She's got like a weird like almost new wave mixed with like like braided.
Yeah, I guess maybe that was they were going for like weird future fashion.
Oh no,
but it just looked kind of.
I thought the hairstyle was cool. It was just kind of interestingly clashing with her like farm attire.
It was very odd style.
But yeah, like the teacher, she, her and the main character, like they start having like that sexual tension play out as well.
That good old sexual tension.
Probably more so than the 16-year-old, obviously, which is kind of odd because there's more scenes dedicated to the movie between the 16-year-old and the one guy in a sort of like meaningful getting to know each other kind of way.
It seems like
as opposed to like the teacher who it just seems more like sexual
well, that's what
tension.
I mean. I feel like they were kind of setting him up with like the 16-year-old girl, and she was like the real love interest, but they couldn't quite go there in the movie, so they had to have this teacher character who he actually could have and does have sex with in a very clunky sex scene.
Where she's like bobbing her head on.
He really probably wanted to be with the other girl.
It's so like the weirdest, like they're like cats nudging their heads.
It was really bad. She looked like she kept nodding off in the middle of the sex scene, which is never a good. I don't know a lot, but it's not. I know that's not a good reaction to get. So,
anyways, it turns night, storm hits.
Some kind of storm.
The Tom Brokaw guy.
Yeah. Who I actually quite like that actor. I thought he did a good job.
It's a shame he didn't stay around longer. He gets killed off immediately.
Yep.
I was just checking this.
Oh, there was another guy too. Like I can't remember exactly what his role was.
I think he was essentially the mechanic. The
mechanic
kind of
the.
He fixed stuff. He kept stuff running at the station.
Right.
The handyman.
Anyways, Tom is killed.
Mm-hmm.
He falls to his death and is electrocuted, which becomes a motif throughout the movie as far as character deaths. There's a lot of
electrocuting in this movie.
Eventually, like, main character and 16-year-old girl. I can't remember any of their names.
Tyson.
Aaron is Tyson and Aaron. Okay.
Yeah, like the chicken.
They discover, like the chicken.
Yeah.
They discover his body. Aaron freaks out. They like sedate her or something to like calm her down. And they're all like trying to like form it in their minds, like who could have done this? But like, I mean,
so at this point it becomes that kind of movie.
Right.
It's kind of it's essentially a locked room mystery to some extent.
Right. And at first they're just content with thinking it was probably he had a heart attack and fell off the edge or something. While Aaron's like going, no, he was murdered. He was murdered.
Yeah.
And
I'm just thinking of that scene as you're describing it. That the girl was such a. I actually like Megan Ward, but she did such a. I'm not at her finest moment.
So she eventually like wakes up without anyone knowing. She sneaks down like multiple hallways to get to this.
A lot of walking in hallways in this movie,
and they always have to shoot every single hallway they're going through too. Like even after it's been established, like the pathway to like this room, they always show every hallway the person's walking through just to waste time. I guess
if you enjoy people walking down hallways, or just you like hallways, or you like people walking down hallways while calling out other characters' names. This is the movie.
Aside from the pathway to that room, I had no bearing on like where rooms were located to each other. Like if something was parallel to this or where this room was. Outside of just that one. I mean, I don't even know how they usually get to that one like walkway on like the rafters that even leads to those hallways. It just everything was just my spatial awareness was like thrown off.
Which really it should be very carefully established in a movie like this, and,
especially when it becomes like later on like a kind of a hide and seek kind of affair.
Sure.
It would be useful to know like how far away or how like close everyone is to each other.
Not a particularly well constructed movie in that sense.
But anyway, she like wanders off to this room, this hidden room.
Mm-hmm.
Where there's like a computer, which had been outlawed. They mentioned earlier in the film.
They took away the internet.
The Unicon did, yeah.
It was horrifying thought.
So she's in this room that belonged to her grandfather's, the guy who's dead now. And, there's a computer in there. And we find out that he was actually a part of, like, the resistance and whatnot. Mm-hmm. Also, earlier in the film, it was established there was this giant, like, I guess, like, robot outside that, like, was it a factory robot or a...
Yeah, it was some kind of a construction
robot.
Back when they really made them big. I've only seen these in pictures before. How'd it get all the way out here?
The government scrapped them. So they built them for the Mexican uranium mines, but when the mines went dry, they just dumped them. There's probably more out here somewhere.
Really? Boy. Must have really been a sight to see this old guy in action.
Mm-hmm.
There's this secret room of his where all his kind of like resistance-based stuff is. He's got the computer like maps everywhere, all these like sheets of paper of like I guess like operations. I don't know.
Right.
To like type into the computer. It seemed like it was some kind of computer that could hack into the server of like Unicon or something. It seemed like it.
Yeah,
I can't remember what the exact text said on
but they had some kind of scheme they had been working on, and the girl knew about it.
Yeah.
And,
she goes back, and then she's being with how that it was, him being part of the resistance, she immediately assumes that someone was sent to murder him, which is why her suspicions are confounded in that. Mm-hmm. So she kind of goes to the whole main group and says, one of us has got to be like an android or something.
Yeah.
Which, most movies, androids, they don't bleed blood.
Uh-huh.
So it's some kind of like liquid, like gooey blue liquid or white liquid,
milky
looking
like
liquid.
Aliens, yeah.
So what they do is they come up with a test that's in the vein of like something like The Thing.
Where very much reminiscent of that.
They're all like gathered about, and they're going to do like a blood test where like they're going to take a knife, which they do they pay no means to like sanitize at all between cutting people. Any bacteria is going to just like pass along to someone by chance. Oh, it does. Now I couldn't actually figure out if that was like it would have been interesting because if it was really that infected, like, did he just have a weird reaction to it, or why did no one else have that problem?
One of the characters becomes infected after they do this blood test.
So I'm wondering
his hand swells up to grotesque gargantuan proportions. This is the sweaty fat guy that this happens to.
Wicket, yeah.
At first, I thought it would be revealed that
he like poisoned it or
something.
That
the android,
but never
the synth, whatever they call them, had done some weird kind of thing to him. But that never really paid off.
No,
it was just a chance for them to show a.
Yeah, but anyways, they all take turns cutting their fingers, and then like you immediately begin to suspect the one mechanic dude is like evil or something because he's acting all like suspicious and weird as far as his interaction with some of the characters, and he does like the stupid dickish thing where he does a deep cut on like the fat guy Wicket, and like he just all around his comments just make him obviously become like the immediate like target of suspicion for us, the audience. If you're like paying attention, you automatically assume that he's like the
and also guy. Crucially in that scene, he's the only one who cuts his own hand. I think they all have somebody else do it. Which later they find like a canister that has like stuff that looks similar to the blood in it. I can't remember. It was those canisters that he picked up from like the I don't remember what they fucking. I think it was supposed to be Freon or something.
Yeah, okay, but like they looked bloody.
Yeah.
So it's probably established that he
faked the
test or something. Yeah. But anyway, so everyone has normal blood, so then they're like, it's okay, kiddo, you were just wrong or something.
Right.
And then what happens is, lo and behold, she's. I can't remember. I'm actually like blanking already on this part of the movie.
I'm telling
between like where the android gets revealed and then because they're showing a bunch of people like sleeping and then like they have to go out and repair something.
Yeah, he reveals himself. Well, I remember she's walking down a hallway. Surprisingly enough, there's another.
Is this after they go out to repair like the crap that's going on?
Yeah,
and I think he probably sabotages the satellite or something.
Yeah,
and then so it falls over later when it crashes.
Yeah, I don't remember exactly
the
timeline, but I mean he reveals himself by basically trying to kill this girl.
Yes,
as being this android. So then we know, okay,
he has like blue visor, static vision.
She's saved by Tyson, and then instead of
he blasts him with a gun like numerous times. He just stands there taking it.
Yeah.
I found that scene funny because it was like he's holding the girl by the neck, and he's like, "I could snap her neck like a twig. Like if I want to." It's like if you do, I'll blow your head off. So be it. And then he just sits there like choking her, and he doesn't make do on his word. It seems like he's struggling to like do the job quickly. And he's like sitting there for like 5 seconds trying to choke her, and the other dude's not even shooting at him.
Right.
He just waits for her to like basically like clock him or something, and then he lets go.
Yeah.
Which seemed relatively easy for someone with a like robotic grip. But then he gets shot like twice in the head and doesn't even budge. So I'm like, why would her hitting him even like make him budge then if he could just take like bullets to the face?
I thought that was definitely a weak point in the movie in that they didn't establish the parameters of this. I'm going to call him an android. I know they're called like synths or something in this movie. They didn't establish the parameters of his strength or ability or weaknesses.
It seemed to vary.
So it did seem to vary, and he seemed at times to be completely invincible to the point where we're like, well, how are they going to stop him? So I thought that was another weak point.
Then comes my favorite part of the movie. Mm-hmm. The as far as the humorous
unintentional
humor goes. They're completely immediately threatened. He picks up an axe that he was hit with after he was like trying to choke Tyson, and the robot picks up the axe. And he's just like, "How about a game of hide and seek?" And he like runs off with the axe. Like he intentionally wants to go off somewhere, let them all spread out and go like try to run away, and then try to hunt them down one by one because it would be fun. He goes off on a tangent talking about how like I've got this chip in my head that gives me like a conscience, like my Jiminy circuit,
right.
See, there's a teeny tiny little chip in my big gargantuan brain. The company calls it the Jiminy factor because it's like a conscience. It's kind of cute, huh? But I would never, in a million, billion, trillion years, terminate a human. But thanks to a miracle of modern technology, poor little Jiminy Cricket has crashed and burned.
Jiminy Cricket,
right. And that had been damaged.
Pinocchio.
Yeah, it's interesting because, I mean, at the beginning, he's an assassin robot. Like, he's sent there
specifically to kill
this
the
guy,
one
like
guy.
a surgical strike. But then at some point, he goes crazy and just, like, wants to kill everybody.
And I think he mentions that, you know, when he was content to just be... his job was done, he wasn't going to kill anyone else. But then someone... The girl like, mentions, you know, how, like... presents themselves as a threat, basically, throughout her actions.
Well, she says at some point that she believes or she fears that whoever killed her grandfather, presumably an android hiding amongst them, will kill anything he perceives. And
then he found some sense in that.
And then once she said that, he's like, well, I wasn't going to do that, but now that you mention it...
I gotta thank you, kid. You said a synth would try to destroy anything it saw as a threat. I wasn't programmed for that. They just told me to get the old man. But as soon as you said it, I saw the sense in the idea.
And that, I guess, is part of what drove him crazy to start killing or attempting to kill everybody. And he does manage to knock off a few more of our cast members.
He like runs off to go play hide and seek, kills Fat Dude by ripping his arm off, and then like
that was pretty great. That was pretty great.
Launching him into like a light fixture that like electrocutes him to death. Which again, he likes to electrocute people.
It's our second electrocution.
Yes. Then he kills one of the women, the whores in a shower.
Yeah,
the whores in a shower.
No, they seem like nice girls.
No, I like them. That was the first word that came to mind.
But that is also an electrocution. He somehow electrocutes her. I'm not sure how
he has like brief sexual intercourse with her. Tells her to close her eyes so she can't see like the damaged head he has from like the gunshot wounds.
He's pretty fucked up looking at
She opens her eyes, sees him, freaks out, gets electrocuted in the shower.
Yeah. So that's our third electrocution. I think that's the last one.
Well, yeah, and I think he just is about to shoot Aaron in like the shooting room for like the news station, and like she gets pushed out of the way by the other girl.
Yep.
And the girl gets shot. Yep. She dies.
A heroic sacrifice.
So then when they like get the gun from him, like, or Tyson shows up with another gun, shoots the android, and this time he takes the full flag of it. I guess he's just like turns and like. It's like the most poorly sold, like, crash into a camera lens thing. He just, like, literally ducks and turns and, like, comedically, like, launches his head into it. Mm-hmm. Then he stands up again, takes another gunshot, falls over dead.
And keeps on ticking.
He's seemingly dead right now. Aaron, the girl, for some reason, goes up and takes a photo of him, like, a bunch of photographs of him.
Yeah, that was weird.
I don't get why she did that. It never came into play in regards to anything else in the movie. It just she just decided to go up, take a few pictures, and then it established that he was still alive by showing his vision looking at her.
I guess maybe it was because, you know, Unicom is supposed to present themselves as this benign organization, so maybe she was thinking she could use that as proof to say, like, look, they are using these.
They're asking way too much, though, without, like, you know, following through on any of these points.
I'm giving a lot to this movie by going there. It just occurred to me. It's possible.
Yeah.
It's possible.
But so then they, you know, what is it? Got the teacher,
I think that's
the teacher, Tyson, and Aaron left. They're all getting ready to escape. They get into a jeep, and then freaking android guy just falls from the sky as they exit, like plops on the hood of the car and like breaks the window, starts at them. Oh, I forgot to mention that the fat sweaty guy kept sleeping with all the in the same room with all the women, which is kind of odd to me. But that's going off.
I assume he probably paid them at some point.
Yeah. Anyways, he's dead now. Who cares?
Yeah.
Android falls on the hood of the car. They're like swerving about.
Yeah.
They land. He flies off. He gets out of the car to try and like shoot him. I can't remember how the tower falls over, but like the antenna tower. Like
I don't remember either.
It falls over and it like pins both Tyson, and the robot underneath it. The robot has both of his legs crushed.
Yeah, he's in pretty bad shape at this point.
Tyson has one leg kind of pinned under there.
Don't worry, Tyson. We'll get you out.
Aaron just runs off to the secret room to try and activate the robot.
The giant robot.
Which she discovered was still active earlier on in another scene. When she fiddled around with the computer. Anyway, she starts it up. It gets up, lifts the antenna off of them. Right after the robot actually pried free its legs and started crawling towards Tyson to try and finish him off.
Yeah.
Lifts it up. He still gets a hold of one of his legs, though, after it's been lifted. And they're, like, crawling away. One of the arms of the robot malfunctions, breaks off. The antenna falls back down. So it's starting to fall apart,
Yeah,
kind of
that's
fail.
kind of it for the robot. Oh, almost.
Well, no, yeah.
It's got one last, yeah.
Tyson breaks free from the grip of the android somehow.
Yeah.
With his gimp leg that doesn't work.
Just through sheer will.
So then the robot, which is really well animated, actually.
Yep.
It's pretty well animated.
Great David Allen stop motion animated.
Steps on the android, effectively finishing him for good. Then it collapses and falls down in a heap.
Yes.
After that, they
all live happily ever after.
They think they're going to, but then like I can't remember how she figures it out that there's another android.
She looked at some printout or something, which I don't know
when she was in the room with the robot.
She somehow got
and she leaves a note in a room, I guess, where she just assumed Tyson would go to look for her. Goes in there, sees a note that says, there are two. Turns around the teacher. Oh my god, she's an android.
Surprise.
Starts attacking him.
Spoiler alert.
And then, I guess, Aaron found a more powerful rifle. Because this rifle... I mean, all the other guns earlier in the movie, it took how many shots to, like, disable this freaking android.
Right.
Yet Aaron comes in with, like, I guess buckshot or something and then blows her face completely off the teacher. In one shot, she's down.
The other robot, almost completely invincible, was only taken out by the giant robot stepping on it. This android, one shot and she's done.
Yeah.
So that was kind of cheap, too. And that's what I mean about you got to establish what are the parameters of these.
Right.
Was
she an inferior model, or what was the deal
That's
with
my
that?
guess. My guess is she just wasn't as good of a robot.
But
I think it was the same gun. They
drive off. Jailbaiting Tyson.
Yeah. They're gonna get up to no good. I have a bad feeling.
They go back to that mechanic's place, the repair shop,
Yep.
and they see, like, I guess Unicon cars or cops, whatever,
Yep.
heading off in the direction of the news station. They're just like, well, I guess they finally figured out their, like, robots were taken care of or whatever. It's like, what do we do now? And they, like, I guess they show that they're going to be heading off to join the resistance or whatever.
And that'll be continued in Crash and Burn 2, except there wasn't a Crash and Burn 2 because this movie wasn't very good. I think your description of this plot made it sound so much more exciting than it was actually watching this movie.
I love factory settings when they're shot well because it just, all that twisted, like, metal and other things like that just looks so interesting to look at. This was such a boringly shot movie. It just, lots of just empty rooms with nothing in them, hallways that just had nothing but, like, rafters and wiring that just didn't seem to serve any kind of visual purpose. It looked like just they shot in a junkyard or something.
Yeah, this whole movie was like, they had a lot of elements, like, that could have been made into a really exciting movie. There's a giant robot. It's sort of the apocalypse. You know, I described this as a post-apocalyptic movie, but it's not really post-apocalyptic. It's kind of this slow apocalypse in that there wasn't one event. You know, there wasn't a nuclear war or anything. It's just the environment and the UV radiation has gotten steadily and progressively worse, which is probably how the apocalypse will happen. Like, things just get really bad, you know, over time. You have this motley crew of characters trapped within, as you said, a potentially cool environment of this factory setting out in the middle of nowhere. Someone's a killer, so it's something of a closed-door mystery. But none of those elements are utilized really effectively at all. And the experience of watching this movie is, like we said, watching people walk down hallways and call out other characters.
They didn't utilize any unique areas of, like, the factory to really, like, have, like, interesting looking scenes.
No.
It was just a lot of hallways. Like I said, an empty, like, there was a few times they showed an empty room, just a few bedrooms that didn't have much, like, in the way of imagination of how they were designed. Same with the, like, dining area.
They could have done a lot
more. The most
more
interesting
with it.
place was probably, like, the grandfather's little, like, underground bunker.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
It looked, that one seemed like it was properly, like, dressed up. It was all kind of haphazard and disheveled and unorganized. Like, you know, like, it was beautiful chaos. It had a lot of character and personality in the room. Like, you know, there was a lot of stuff just placed around that, you know, didn't serve any purpose other than to, like, spruce up the look of things. Yeah. And I liked that.
Yeah.
But every other room was just so uninteresting looking and just...
Well, and that's kind of how I felt about the whole movie. I just kind of felt like there wasn't anything here that we hadn't seen before in other movies utilized in a better way. You know, I mean, this movie reminds you of so many other movies. Alien, The Thing, like we mentioned. But it just reminds you of how good those movies are and how it's just kind of...
Right. I mean, Alien a lot takes place in like a very factory-esque
absolutely.
setting. And that's shot beautifully and looks appealing. Yeah. I mean, you can do that instead of just these straightaway shots of like narrow-looking rafters and hallways.
Well, and when I first saw this movie, of course, what I was most disappointed in is that you've got this giant robot on the movie poster. You've got, they show the robot fairly early in the movie inactive, and you're going to think, like, I want to see this fucking robot moving around and shit. And it's barely in the movie. It's just in the last few minutes. It was an admittedly well-done sequence, but it's just not enough for me to really recommend this movie on any level.
Like, you can appreciate
Full Moon, but this is skippable.
Like, you can appreciate that, like, animation and everything, but that's really the only good
That's all
thing.
it's got going for it.
And just, like, the somewhat humorous element to the android too. Mm-hmm. How he just seems like a complete unthreatening goofball.
Yeah. He came off as goofy rather than threatening. So not some great actors in here, but not a ton of great performances.
All the good actors were just killed off far too soon, probably.
Yeah, well, I think the older guy was the best actor. So
he was, and even though I hated the character, like the sleazy guy was decent enough.
Yeah,
I mean, he played the role fine.
The fat guy?
Yeah.
I mean, he did well. I believed him as a sweaty, annoying fat guy. All right, well, this is going to be like our longest episode ever, so I am very quickly going to break down our cast. The director is Charles Band. David Allen, as we mentioned, did the special effects. We've talked about them before. We'll talk about them again. Paul Gannis played Tyson, like the chicken Keen. That was our hero with the great hair. He, like a lot of our cast, did a lot of films and television shows. He actually began his career as a stuntman and had an interesting little career during the 90s in a lot of Mexican telenovelas, often playing the villain. So sort of an interesting side note to his career. The beautiful Megan Ward played the 16-year-old jailbait Erin. I believe this may have been her first movie. She went on to star in a lot of other Full Moon films around this time. She played a very important character in a couple of the Trancers sequels, and she was also in the video game themed horror film Arcade. And I liked her quite a lot in the Trancer movies, actually. Ralph Waite played Lathan Hooks. That is the old guy who I mentioned did quite a good job in this movie. He actually began his acting career late, when he was in his 30s, and he had very small parts in very big movies like Cool Hand Luke and 5 Easy Pieces. He's also done a lot of television, and horror fans should be very familiar with Bill Moseley. He is our crazy android. Of course, he was in the Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2, and also has done a lot of work with Rob Zombie in recent years in movies like House of a Thousand Corpses and The Devil's Rejects. So
that's where I immediately remembered him from. Like, that's what I thought was Devil's Rejects when I saw him. Yeah,
a fine cast. Not a great film.
No.
Yeah. Any kind of final thoughts on Crash and Burn that you want to leave people with, or have we said our piece?
Unfortunately, there's just not really much to talk about with the movie outside of like what we got through with the summary.
It's skippable. Well, I'll my final thought will be just a little bit of trivia that I uncovered. This movie was actually released as Robot Jox 2 in most European markets, but it actually has no relation to that film. Now, Robot Jox is another Charles Band production that we will be discussing before too long on the Full Moon Effect. And that one, I think, is really going to bring it in terms of the stop-motion robot action in the way that this movie doesn't. So I think the two movies are, related in some people's minds, but they really have nothing to do with each other. And this one is the one you should skip. All right. So I think that is going to do it for our discussion on this episode of Full Moon Effects. On our next episode, we will be talking about the 1990 film Meridian. I have to say, I am really excited to talk about this movie because I haven't seen it.
I have.
Yeah, I have always wanted to. I've always been curious about it because it's just from that era of Full Moon, and I've never seen this one. So we get to watch it and talk about it next time.
It's been a while since I liked it, though.
I'm excited. You guys should be excited about our next episode. As always, remember to like and comment on this video, and of course, subscribe to this wonderful YouTube channel. As I mentioned earlier, follow us on Facebook to stay up to date with all of our updates between episodes. Check out my other horror movie review podcast called Brain Says Strange Things on the Patrick Markfort YouTube channel. I host that one with my brother, and we talk about Shane Black and Monster Squad and all kinds of cool stuff in an episode that just went up there recently. Last but certainly not least, I want to give a shout out to another Full Moon YouTuber who I discovered recently called Mac the Blade. We're going to provide a link to his channel below, Mac the Blade. He's got a handful of videos up, and I really hope he keeps going. He does great unboxing, review videos, talks about a lot of Full Moon box sets that he has in his collection. So absolutely check out Mac the Blade. He's doing a great job talking about Full Moon movies, which is something that we can appreciate here at the Full Moon Effect. And I think that's all we've got. All right. I think that does it. That wraps it up. We hope you enjoyed this discussion, and we'll see you next time for our discussion of Meridian. Until then, take it easy. We'll see you later. Bye-bye.
Bye.